The crimson warnings flashed across the escape pod's dying console as Princess Zendra of the Corvani Dominion gripped the restraints with trembling hands. Her royal uniform, once pristine white with golden threading, now bore the stains of her own azure blood and the scorch marks of plasma fire. The pod shuddered violently as it breached the atmosphere of the small blue world her navigation system had designated as habitable but primitive. 3 days ago, she had been heir to 7 star systems. Today, she was a traitor fleeing through the void. The memory burned in her mind like the wounds across her back, standing in the Imperial war chamber, watching her father's generals prepare to activate the stellar devastator. The planet below had been home to the Villani, a peaceful species whose only crime was refusing to surrender their mineral-rich world to Corvani expansion. Millions of innocent lives hung in the balance. "Activate the weapon," her father had commanded, his voice cold as the space between stars. "Show them the price of defying our empire." But when the moment came, Zendra had acted on instinct rather than duty. Her hands had moved to the control panel, fingers dancing across the interface not to fire, but to disable the weapon entirely. The devastator had powered down with a dying whine, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. "Treason," her father had whispered, the word carrying the weight of a death sentence. Now as her escape pod screamed toward the surface of this unknown moon, Zendra wondered if she had simply chosen a different way to die. The impact would likely kill her, but at least the Villani children would wake tomorrow to see their son rise again. The pod struck the lunar surface with bone-jarring force, carving a deep furrow in the gray regolith, before coming to rest against a boulder. Emergency systems hissed and sparked around her as atmosphere leaked from hairline cracks in the hull. Her breathing came in ragged gasps, each one a struggle against the crushing pain in her ribs. Through the cracked viewport, she could see the blue marble of the planet hanging in the star-filled void above. So beautiful, so peaceful. Perhaps the beings who lived there knew nothing of empires and conquest, of the terrible choices that came with power. Zendra closed her eyes and let her consciousness drift. In her dreams, she was a child again, playing in the crystal gardens of her homeworld before duty and honor had hardened her heart. Before she learned that sometimes the most honorable thing a princess could do was to fall from grace. The pod's emergency beacon pulsed weakly in the darkness, sending its distress signal into the void. Whether it would bring rescue or death, she no longer cared. She had chosen love over loyalty, compassion over conquest. The stars would judge whether she had chosen well. Lieutenant Commander Tobias Hart had been conducting routine geological surveys of the lunar surface for 6 months, and he thought he'd seen everything the moon had to offer. Rock samples, crater formations, the occasional meteorite impact, all catalogued with scientific precision in his mission reports. But the twisted metal wreckage glinting in his rover's headlights was definitely not in any geology textbook. "Control, this is Lunar Survey 7, he radioed back to the orbital station. "I've got what appears to be a crashed vessel of unknown origin. Definitely not one of ours." The response crackled through his comm unit. "Understood, Survey 7. Maintain safe distance and await instructions." But Tobias was already climbing out of his rover, curiosity overriding protocol. The craft was sleek and organic looking, its hull bearing symbols that seemed to shift and flow in his helmet's lamp beams. More importantly, he could see a faint blue glow emanating from what appeared to be a viewport. "There's someone inside," he reported, his voice tight with urgency. "Life signs detected. Requesting immediate medical evacuation." "Negative, Survey 7. Unknown contact could be hostile. Return to base immediately." Tobias stared at the dying glow within the pod. Through the cracked transparency, he could make out a figure, humanoid but clearly not human, with elongated features and pale skin, marked by strange, beautiful patterns. Something told him it was female. Chest rose and fell in shallow, desperate breaths. "Control respectfully screw protocol. I'm not leaving someone to die out here." He spent the next 20 minutes jury-rigging his rover's emergency medical pod to interface with the alien vessel's atmospheric systems. The language barrier proved irrelevant when he finally managed to crack the pod's seal. Universal suffering needed no translation. The alien woman's eyes fluttered open as he lifted her carefully into his arms, revealing irises the color of distant nebulae. "Easy," he murmured, knowing she couldn't understand but hoping his tone would convey safety. "You're going to be okay. I've got you." The journey back to the orbital medical station took 3 hours, during which Tobias found himself stealing glances at his unconscious passenger. Her injuries were severe but not fatal, and there was something regal about her bearing even in unconsciousness. The tattered remains of her clothing suggested high rank or nobility, while the weapon burns on her back told a story of violence and betrayal. Dr. Harrison, the station's chief medical officer, worked frantically to stabilize her once they arrived. "Her physiology is remarkably similar to ours," he reported. "I can work with this, but I need to understand what caused these injuries." "Looks like energy weapons," Tobias observed, studying the precise burn patterns. "Someone wanted her dead, but they also wanted her to suffer first." When the alien woman finally regained consciousness 2 days later, her first sight was of Tobias sitting beside her medical bed, reading a tablet. She stirred slightly, and he immediately set the device aside. "Hey there," he said gently. "Welcome back. You're safe now." She studied his face with those remarkable eyes, then spoke in a voice like distant music. The words were incomprehensible, but the emotion behind them was universal, gratitude mixed with profound sadness. "I'm Tobias," he said, pointing to himself. "Tobias Hart." She considered this, then placed a graceful hand over her heart. "Zendra," she whispered, the name carrying the weight of lost worlds. It was the beginning of everything. Dr. Amara Singh had studied xenobiology her entire career, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of sitting across from Princess Zendra in the integration facility's common room, watching the exiled alien struggle with the concept of human humor. Tobias had just finished telling what he considered a harmless joke about lunar mining, and Zendra's expression suggested she was trying to solve a complex mathematical equation. "Your species finds amusement in failure?" Zendra asked, her English now fluid after 3 weeks of intensive language immersion. Her accent carried musical undertones that made even simple questions sound like poetry. "Not failure exactly," Amara explained patiently. "It's about unexpected outcomes, the absurdity of situations. Laughter helps us cope with stress." Zendra nodded slowly, filing this information away with the thousands of other human behavioral patterns she'd been cataloging. In the Corvani Dominion, humor was considered a weakness. Leaders who laughed were seen as unstable. "Well, you're not in the Dominion anymore," Tobias said, settling beside them with 3 cups of coffee. He'd barely left Zendra's side since her recovery, citing his role as cultural liaison. Amara suspected his motivations were more personal than professional. Over the following days, Amara watched Zendra navigate the complexities of human society with a mixture of wonder and bewilderment. The princess was fascinated by Earth's chaotic democracy, spending hours reading about elections and peaceful transfers of power. She wept openly when Amara showed her footage of disaster relief efforts, unable to comprehend why strangers would risk their lives for people they'd never met. "Your species is paradoxical," Zendra observed during one of their afternoon walks through the facility's gardens. "You wage wars over resources, yet you also share food with your enemies' children." "We're complicated," Amara agreed. "That's what makes us human." But not everyone embraced Zendra's presence on Earth. Political tensions simmered as various factions debated her status. Senator Margaret Caldwell led the opposition, arguing that harboring an alien fugitive could invite interstellar retaliation. "She's a security risk," Caldwell declared during a heated congressional session that Amara watched on the news feeds. "We know nothing about her people's capabilities or intentions." Amara found Zendra in the observation lounge that evening, staring out at the stars with tears streaming down her cheeks. The princess had developed an uncanny ability to sense when she was being discussed, her enhanced hearing picking up fragments of conversation from across the facility. "They fear me," Zendra whispered. Perhaps they should. I am the daughter of conquerors trained in warfare since childhood. But you chose differently, Amara reminded her, settling beside her friend. That's what matters. Did I? Or did I simply choose a different kind of destruction? Zendra's hands clenched in her lap. My father will come for me, Amara. When he does, your people will suffer for their kindness. The friendship between them had grown stronger each day, built on late-night conversations about philosophy and morality. Amara had come to understand that beneath Zendra's royal bearing lay a woman tormented by the weight of her choices. The princess threw herself into humanitarian work, volunteering at refugee centers and hospitals, as if she could somehow atone for her people's crimes through service. Tobias found them there an hour later, carrying a tray of hot chocolate and wearing his crooked smile. Thought you might need this, he said, though his eyes were fixed entirely on Zendra. Amara watched the subtle interplay between them, the way Zendra's expression softened when Tobias entered a room, how his voice gentled when he spoke to her. Love was growing between them, fragile and beautiful as a flower blooming in space. The Integration Committee approved your request, Tobias announced. You can start working with the Diplomatic Corps next week. Zendra's face lit up with the first genuine smile Amara had seen from her. Truly? They said your insights into interspecies relations could be invaluable. Plus, you've got friends in high places now. As Amara watched them together, she couldn't shake the feeling that this peaceful moment was the calm before a storm. Somewhere among the stars, an empire was searching for its lost princess, and when they found her, all of humanity would be forced to choose sides. General Kravik stood on the bridge of the Corvani dreadnought Sovereign's Wrath, his scarred hands clasped behind his back as he studied the primitive blue world hanging in the viewscreen. 3 months of searching had led him here, following the faint trail of the princess's escape pod through 7 star systems. The dishonor of losing an imperial heir had stained his reputation, but bringing her back, alive or dead, would restore his standing. General, we're detecting defensive installations around the planet, reported his tactical officer. Crude but numerous. The inhabitants appear to be spacefaring. Insignificant, Kravik growled. Open a channel to their leaders. On Earth, alarms blared through the Global Defense Network headquarters as massive ships materialized at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Rebecca Torres watched the tactical display with growing dread. 12 vessels, each one dwarfing humanity's largest cruisers. Incoming transmission, her communications officer announced. They're requesting a diplomatic channel. Put it through. Kravik's image filled the main screen, his reptilian features carved from stone and shadow. I am General Kravik of the Corvani Dominion. You harbor a fugitive, the traitor Princess Zendra. Surrender her immediately, and your world will be spared. Admiral Torres straightened in her command chair. I'm Admiral Torres representing the United Earth Defense Force. Princess Zendra has been granted asylum under our interstellar refugee protocols. We cannot and will not surrender her. Then you have chosen destruction, Kravik replied coldly. You have 1 planetary rotation to reconsider. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Within hours, emergency sessions convened in capitals worldwide. The debate was fierce but brief. Humanity had made its choice when they first welcomed Zendra into their protection. Dr. Amara Singh found Zendra in the integration facility's chapel, kneeling before a simple wooden cross. The princess had been drawn to human religious concepts, finding comfort in ideas of sacrifice and redemption. They've come for me, Zendra said without turning around. I felt their presence the moment they entered your system. We're not giving you up, Amara said firmly. The vote was unanimous. Zendra rose slowly, her alien grace evident even in sorrow. Your people will die because of me. How is that? Different from what I sought to prevent? Because this time you're not alone, Tobias said from the doorway. He wore his dress uniform, medals gleaming on his chest. The fleet's mobilizing, every ship we have. Against 12 dreadnoughts? Zendra shook her head. It's suicide. Maybe, Tobias admitted, crossing to take her hands in his. But sometimes the right choice isn't the safe choice. You taught us that. In the hours that followed, Earth's defenders took their positions. The planet's orbital platforms powered up their weapons, while every available ship launched to form a protective screen. It was a pathetic force compared to the Corvani fleet, but it was what humanity had. General Kravik studied the defensive formations with professional interest. "They're primitives playing at war," he told his officers. "Begin bombardment of their military installations. Leave the population centers intact. We'll need slaves to work the mining operations." But as the Corvani ships moved into attack formation, something unexpected happened. Civilian vessels began launching from Earth's surface, cargo haulers, mining ships, even luxury yachts, all moving to join the defensive line. Within hours, thousands of ships filled the space around Earth, a ragtag armada of volunteers who refused to let their adopted princess face her fate alone. Zendra watched the display from the command center, tears streaming down her face. "They're not warriors," she whispered. "They're teachers and farmers and merchants. They'll all die." "Then we make sure their sacrifice means something," Admiral Torres said grimly. "All ships, this is command. Target the lead dreadnought, fire on my mark." The battle for Earth was about to begin. The space around Earth erupted in brilliant flashes of light as humanity's desperate gambit began. Admiral Torres had ordered every ship to focus fire on General Kravik's flagship, hoping to cripple the enemy command structure. The Sovereign's wrath shuddered under the combined assault, its shields flickering but holding. "Impressive," Kravik admitted, gripping his command chair as another volley struck home. "But futile. All ships, return fire. Show these primitives the price of defiance." The Corvani response was devastating. 3 of Earth's orbital platforms vanished in balls of plasma, while dozens of civilian vessels were vaporized in the opening exchange. But for every ship that fell, 2 more seemed to take its place as Earth's population rallied to the defense of their world. In the integration facility, Zendra paced the command center like a caged predator, her royal training warring with her growing love for humanity. "I have to stop this," she said suddenly. "There's a way to end it without more bloodshed." "Don't even think about it," Tobias said, reading her expression. "You're not surrendering yourself to save us. Look at them." Zendra gestured at the tactical display showing the ongoing slaughter. "They're dying because they chose to protect me. How many more must fall before I accept responsibility?" "Doctor." Amara Singh stepped forward, her scientific mind working furiously. "Wait. Zendra, you said you disabled the Stellar Devastator. How?" "I accessed the command codes using my Imperial authentication," Zendra replied, confused by the apparent change of subject. "Are those codes still active?" Amara pressed. "Could you access other Corvani systems?" Understanding dawned in Zendra's eyes. "The fleet's coordination network, if I could reach it." She turned to Admiral Torres. "I need a direct communication link to the Corvani flagship." "That's suicide," Torres protested. "The moment they detect your signal, they'll trace it back here." "Then we'll have to move fast," Zendra said. "Tobias, I need you to pilot a shuttle. Get me close enough to establish a link." "I'm not letting you go alone," he said fiercely. "You're not going anywhere without backup," Amara added, her fingers flying over her tablet. "I'm downloading everything we know about Corvani technology. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." 20 minutes later, a single Earth shuttle streaked toward the Corvani fleet, weaving through the battle like a leaf in a hurricane. Inside, Zendra worked frantically at a jury-rigged communication array while Tobias pushed their small craft to its limits. "There!" Zendra cried, as her royal codes found purchase in the enemy network. "I'm in the coordination system. I can see their tactical data, their command structure." "Can you disable their weapons?" Tobias asked, sweat beading on his forehead as he dodged another plasma burst. "Better," Zendra whispered, her fingers dancing across alien interfaces. "I can give them a direct order from the Imperial throne." She began transmitting, her voice carrying all the authority of her royal bloodline. "This is Princess Zendra of the Corvani Dominion, rightful heir to the Crystal Throne. By Imperial decree, I order all ships to stand down immediately. The war is over. On the flagship's bridge, General Kravik stared in shock as his tactical displays went dark. Impossible. She's a traitor, stripped of all authority. The system recognizes her royal codes, his tactical officer reported. All weapons are offline. The fleet is dead in space. But Kravik had not risen to his position by accepting defeat. Drawing his ceremonial blade, he activated his personal transport. If I cannot capture the princess, I will at least restore my honor by killing her. The general materialized on the shuttle's deck in a flash of blue light, his weapon raised. But he found himself facing not just Zendra, but Tobias Hart with a plasma rifle, and Dr. Amara Singh with a determined expression and a medical scanner that doubled as a weapon. You are outnumbered, General, Zendra said calmly. Surrender, and I will guarantee your safe passage home. Kravik laughed bitterly. You offer mercy to the one who came to drag you back in chains? You have learned too much from these soft creatures. I've learned that strength isn't about conquest, Zendra replied. It's about choosing to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The standoff lasted only moments. Kravik lunged forward, but Tobias was faster, his shot taking the general down before he could strike. As Kravik fell, his last words were a whisper. The Empire will remember. In the aftermath, the Corvani fleet found itself leaderless and confused. Zendra's authority might have been questioned by the Imperial Court, but the ship's computer systems recognized her bloodline. She used that recognition to send them home, carrying a message that would reshape the galaxy. That there were powers, greater than conquest, bonds stronger than empire. Standing on Earth's surface a week later, Zendra watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Tobias stood beside her, his hand warm in hers, while Amara supervised the children from the local refugee center as they played in the garden. Do you regret it? Tobias asked quietly. Giving up an empire? Zendra smiled, thinking of the laughter of human children. The tears of joy she'd seen in so many faces, the way love had bloomed in the most unlikely places. I didn't give up an empire, she said. I found a home. Above them, the first stars appeared in the deepening sky, no longer symbols of conquest but promises of hope. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and somewhere among those distant suns, other worlds were learning that love could indeed triumph over power. The princess had fallen from grace, but she had risen as something far greater. She had become human.